So it's a pleasure to be working with SS4. I'm actually mentoring SS4 for their journey in design training and education. And yeah, so I'm there because I also believe in them to provide good education, and we're trying to do that. So yeah, today's masterclass we're going to quickly uh, cover a few topics which are going to be used in your second phase, whether it's situation test or studio test. And they are very specific topics, and I hope uh, you take something back and it becomes a applicable learning today. All right. So I'm not physically there, so I cannot interact with you directly, but we'll open up for a Q&A session where you can ask questions. All right. So yeah, this is Gaurav, and it's my pleasure to be here, to be interacting with you all. And yeah, so I think we can directly begin. Let me share my screen, please. But yeah, so welcome to today's session. We are going to do decoding design themes and design conceptualization. I'll start with design conceptualization and then we'll move over to the themes because we'll use the same logic uh, to take it forward. All right. And so basically, I'll be using a platform called Jamboard. And what I'm going to tell you about the process, it might seem lengthy, all right? But I'm saying the whole part of the training before the exam is to take the longer route. So you can develop deep understanding of different concepts. And when you do it enough, you gain speed. So when you are actually in the exam paper, you don't have to do the same elaborate thinking. You have already done the thinking part. All right, so that's the logic. And what we're saying is critically avoiding and overcoming ignorance. It's like a slapstick comment, but what I'm trying to say is that you cannot create models and you cannot create solutions or whatever they have asked for with absolute ignorance about a particular topic theme, uh, because it shows that you don't know about the relevant, whether it's a social issue, whether it's any other topic, whether it's color, your concepts, right? So we are trying to avoid ignorance in your answer sheet so that you can have a better chance at the paper. All right. And simply we can do that by doing a little bit of thinking beforehand. So I'll move over to the FigJam board. I hope the FigJam board is also visible right now. Wait. Yeah. Krishna, is the FigJam board visible? Okay. So I call this, it's a mind mapping session, or a process or a method, right? So let's just take a single word, whatever you want to conceptualize about. All right, you want to develop a concept. Uh, it could be a word, it could be a sentence, but we'll just take the core word over here. So because this topic of child labor falls under the social issues, right? And social issues as themes can labor as a topic, right? And now you have to start elaborating what do you mean by it. All right. So sometimes you also say you have to answer the who, when, what, how, you know, and if you can answer those questions, you already get the clarity you're looking for. So over here, this is the central topic in white over here, right? Now I'm expanding into one topic being a definition. What does it mean? So then you start asking about the question, what is child labor? Can you define it? You know what it is, but you don't do not know what it exactly is, because what are the legal terms, what is the legal working age, you might not have all those answers to those questions, so you don't really understand the topic really well, right? Another could be the effects of child labor. Then you start expanding into that. What are the vulnerabilities to exploitation is there? These are the effects of child labor, right? Physical mental health consequences, intergenerational poverty, right? Because if someone is poor and the whole system is such that there is not enough support, what happens is generation after generation, the same poverty will exist and they cannot never come out of the loophole, right? I mean, the loop. And similarly, you go into who are the stakeholders and the systems when you're talking about this topic. So we have global supply chains, we have government policies, enforcement bodies, family communities, employers, industries. And it has mentioned agriculture, textile, mining, because these are also the industries where a lot of child labor used to be prevalent. And I'm pretty sure even now it could be. So and then there are NGOs and human rights organizations, and then there are consumers, right? So when you start understanding all these, when you're expanding on a single word and you're expanding it into different knowledge bases and understanding, now you start getting a clearer picture of what you're actually talking about, right? And then we also have causes and conditions, right? It could be what are the cause, what causes poverty or what causes child labor. So you have gender discrimination, displacement, conflict zone, debt, bondage, lack of education, and so on, right? And then we have a tool over here in FigJam. I'm just going to tell you about it. You can literally use this Jam bot, it's called. When you're researching and you want answers, you don't have to keep switching between tabs and go to Google and then come back or something. You can simply ask it question you want, and it can give you elaborate answer. I said, okay, break down child labor into most connected keywords, right? If you're not sure how to proceed after the first word, then it gave me the keywords: exploitation, rights, poverty, education, laws, activism, global issues, and so on and so forth. So you will have to ponder over each of those topics, all right, to get a larger understanding of what the system is. And it's not if you're understanding child labor, then it only applies to this. It does apply to a lot of other social issues. Okay. So when you do this exercise of expanding and understanding what I'm really trying to answer through a question, and you have so much information, your solution is going to show that you have an understanding and what you're talking about. It will show that difference in understanding between you and the other students. All right. And in terms of, if you have to imagine the possibilities, right? You can even have, empowered youth voices could be one possibility as a solution. What would the world look like with zero child labor zone? Can AI automation reduce child exploitation, child labor in dystopia, utopia? These are the, you're imagining a scenario. It's not real life. What we have already studied here or researched here is what is prevalent. But the future speculation is what could be, whether it's a dystopia or a utopia, right? And the last part of this exercise is, once you start gaining clarity, you now start visualizing it. This is the time when you actually start conceptualizing. All right. So let's just take poverty as one of the causes and conditions, and you want to visualize that. So I can visualize, I can show poverty through an empty plate or a bowl as my visual in my poster, in my whatever illustration I'm creating or what has been asked for me. I can even show tattered clothing or bare feet, right? Now, these are the more stereotypical representations in the beginning. So, from the left to right, I'm going to take it more complex and into a more abstract metaphorical ideas. So, we start with a plate and bowl, which is very representational. It Most people will understand we are talking about lack of something, right? And therefore poverty. You can show tattered clothing or bare feet. Again, another indication which we all have been brought up with. So, therefore, we all understand these metaphors and symbols, right? Old, overused school books and chalkboards. Now it's going more subtle, right? The utensils or broken tools. Okay, another level. Then we go into complete abstraction. Let's say shadows of people with no bodies, right? Now the same, a very from a representational, uh, you know, visualization. I'm going to more abstract, more layered visualization and narrative storytelling. This is where your answer and solution is going to stand out, because now you're thinking out of the box. Now you're also developing, you're going beyond the stereotype, right? So shadows of people with no bodies, it shows people either being uh, misheard, misseen, like, they don't have a social circle. For the poor, you can also, for poverty, you can use it. Or a clock with no hands. For example, you are there, but you don't have any capabilities. You're dysfunctional. So all those things you can weave into your visualization. And how did we reach there is the method I'm showing. So now you might say again, like I said, Ki, this is a time consuming process, but definitely training is what it is about. So you have, let's say, 6 months to prepare, 3 months to prepare for one paper, which is going to last you 2 hours, let's say, right? So that 6 months, what you're going to do is you're going to take the longer route, because the longer route is going to give you a permanent understanding, awareness, sensitivity, knowledge. And when you actually start attempting, your mind is going to work in a very different manner, right? Right now, we are taking it a very superficial, surface level. We see a theme, nature, we start drawing a tree, correct? but we have to move away from that obvious representation. One reason is because you guys are designers, so more is expected of us. As simple as that. Secondly, it's a competitive exam, and the first thought you get, almost every second, third person is going to get the same thought, right? Because we all have been trained with the same kind of environments. This exercise I'm giving you and the training you're going to receive at, let's say, SS4 is going to help you move away from the crowd and start developing your own thinking, your own independent thinking. And that's why we are doing a critical analysis of the themes or the topics we are dealing with right now, right? So that our imaginative powers are enhanced through critical thinking. So understand the importance of this. So use this tool, work in groups. I think for next couple of months, whenever your paper is, or you should start sitting in groups. Each one takes a particular word, they break it down, and then share these mood boards with each other. What's going to happen is then everybody does their bit of 4 hours of study, let's say. But then when you see the other solutions, you don't have to apply it to every word. You can just use other people's brainstorming sessions to your advantage, right? So we work as a collective, we work as a group, and we study together, because there is a lot more understanding power and efficiency in that method. And if you see each other as a competition, I think you're going to lose on this power of collaborative learning, right? Because your competition is actually on global level. It's not in the classroom currently. So moving on. So see, now we have understood how to develop visual critically, right? Now we can go on to themes and you can do the same exercise with the themes. So let's say nature, right? Now I want people over here to give me a couple of words. Krishna, could you collate and you can switch on your mic? Whatever words are coming, I'll start typing it down. I want people to just give me words which they associate with nature. Let's do a quick exercise.
Serene,
Okay. And
Greenery,
okay, greenery and
leaves,
okay.
flow,
Sorry, I missed that.
peaceful, flow, the flow of wells.
Flow. Did you say flow?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you repeat that last one? Lakes. Yeah. Now, okay, we have got a couple of obvious one: greenery, serene, peaceful. I'll also separate them over here because um, these are more again physical nature bodies on the top, right? So, and these are the emotions which are coming out associated. So there's a difference, right? And the physical landscapes, the physical map, geography, you can elaborate. There are tons and tons of things and rivers and things like that, right? Now let's go on to the next level where we're talking about the emotion, peaceful, flow, serene. Let's expand that, and you can go into more elaborate, more deeper connotations also. Anyone? You could be muted because I cannot hear anyone. Sorry, what did you say? Constructive, did you say?
Destructive also sometimes.
Destructive. Yes, yes, definitely. Healing, that's a nice one.
Existence,
Existence, yes.
Creative, like it gives life, so creative.
Yeah,
Growth,
yeah. And,
origin,
Krishna, what was the last one? Harmony. These are good words, right? So now you have the option of, like I said, when the theme becomes nature, either you go directly and you start painting a landscape of some kind, or you can also try to move and keep the keyword as peaceful, and see what a mind map does. And you will see the peaceful itself can be broken down into so many different things. And then the next level of peaceful, when you do the mind mapping, more nuanced stuff is going to come out as a team. All right. So then it goes on to the. So I'm saying this we are just noting down quickly, but you have to go and do your bit about each of these themes. So you can put nature over here and you expand it, okay, and different categories, and so on and so forth. And then when you come back and the nature themes will start applying into your designs and your visualizations, right? These are just interiors, but it can be applied to products. It can be applied to so many different things, right? It can be apparel, whether it is lifestyle, um, things like that. And similarly, you have music as another theme, right? Definitely, music instruments come, rhythm comes, octaves, even because music is uh, same with nature though. There's also a lot of biology, ecosystems, that kind of stuff is also coming out, which we have missed, right, in the nature. So we have just dealt with physical forms and emotions, but what about the science of it? So you can also cover the science of different topics because they also give you a lot of different ways of seeing the same topic, right? So try to see each topic and theme from different angles and start expanding in the mind map. The greater detailed or the more number of boxes in the mind map simply means you have done more thinking, right? And you have to make sure in the mind map, like over here, you will see we have it is categorized. So the larger the topic under investigation, let's say, is child labor. This is one topic which is definition. This is one topic which is effects, right? And so on and so forth. So, like I said, in nature, it will become one topic could become physical forms in nature. So then we have a whole bunch of list there. And then we have, like someone said, natural calamities could be one. There is a whole list of things there. And the science of it, like I said, ecosystems, right? Relationships, symbiotic relationships are there in nature. So those aspects also you should cover. And then we have music. So again, it can be applied to a visual. It can be also applied to a physical mural or a structure, right? Now you see that this is a little more. While it is representational, it is also abstract. Where it's just a cone. It's not really an instrument, and the cone represents sound coming out, right? Because a lot of horns also has it. A lot of musical instruments also has it. So it's a cone. It's a physics of a cone which expands sound, right? So the moment you use an like a symbol like that, you can play around with to fit into the music. So it doesn't always have to be notes, is what I'm trying to say, which is the first thought most people will get. So again, we're trying to move away from the obvious thoughts or the first, second thoughts, and we want to move away to the fifth or the 10th or the 15th thought because that is going to be a little more unique and is going to stand out in the paper, right? Or in your solution. Again, underwater theme. These are the obvious themes. So what you can do is you can investigate all of them separately. And this is like a homework for all you guys. So this session is me also giving you a lot of homework because this has to be done if you really want to see how it works. Just knowing something is not enough unless you try to apply it, right? Even with space. So again, these are two of the similar kind. But if you remember all your sci-fi movies, um, you really have to understand what is common amongst all the sci-fi movies, what visually defines a sci-fi movie, right? So you can say, okay, neon, and then there is aluminum, there is steel, there is a lot of gadgets, right? And there is also a lack of unnecessary, what do you call it, decoration in sci-fi, even in space research and the people who work in space agencies. If you see the rockets, everything is bare minimum to the what is required, right? They're not making unnecessary motives and they're not making unnecessary curves or additional things that you find in your house, day-to-day objects, right? So a working station of an astronaut will look very different than a working station of a person at home or around office, correct? So you have to really understand what defines sci-fi or space, and you take those words and then you can manipulate them. Then you can use the same kind of language and apply it in your own way. All right. Similarly, cartoons. This is more or less easy to understand. They're always bright colored, uh, things like that, right? So it's a separate genre altogether. Now, so this is the homework that I was giving you. that in a group you have to break down each theme using any mind mapping tool and share all the maps with each other so everyone can expand their horizon and understanding of the themes or any topic, because it's not just the theme we're talking about. Anything you want to understand deeply before you want to attempt uh, designing about it, around it, or within it, so you really have to do your bit right now. Now let's come to model making, which is a pretty big part of your question paper, right? And we're also going to see some existing student work and we can discuss around it. So I think because paper is one of the most common material, I think you can first kind of master it as much as possible. You should be able to manipulate it. You should be able to change its structure, its strength, its form, its shape, right? So like crumpling paper itself can give a little texture. What happens is a lot of time we use flat, we are given flat paper, so we use flat paper, just like coloring. So whether you color a wall or you put paper, it's essentially doing the same thing. Possibly paper is more neater, faster. But then we're missing out on a very big sense, which is texture, which can be felt, touched, seen. There's a lot of shadow play. So there's a lot of depth which comes in. So simply crumpling paper can, as simple as that, can start giving it texture. Now, just knowing that you can crumple paper and use does not mean you just go ahead and use it. Once you start using it, you will see sometime it looks great, sometime it does not look so great, right? And this applies to all the techniques. So you really need to work a lot, iterate, and again in groups. So if 20 people attempt a crumple paper texture to be used for their models, it's possible 15 out of 20 models don't look so great, but five might, right? And will. So you have to see what is happening in those five models. That same technique has been used, but why is it looking better in that one? You just understand the reasons behind and then you take it back, right? So again comes back to the collaborative learning, because I've continuously been taking a lot of sessions, and every time I give a problem to people, the number of people, the number of solutions come out. And unless you see all the solutions, you have gone back with only one, which is your own, right? So paper tiering is another one. Again, how you use it, what you complement it with, right? Uh, and the colors, the texture, they have also used, they have not stuck it properly. So all the edges are curling, they're frailing. So that itself is creating a very interesting landscape in this technique. So try paper trading. Paper strips can be used quilling, and in many ways it can be used, right? And they are not limited to what we are seeing on the screen. Again, this zigzag, we often see it a lot of times. So it's a little overused, but you can still use it if unless you can bring something else onto the table that people are like, "Okay, I've seen the technique, but this has been used to another degree or another level or in another alternative way, which is a little different." Is there a message for me? Are you trying to reach out, Krishna? Okay. Now is it? Okay. Okay. And we have paper slit joinery. So any kind of joinery. So not just paper slit, but joinery is one of the, yeah. Okay, let me. I think acha, when I'm going full screen, then it's becoming a problem. Okay, okay. So I'll just keep it like this. So if you did not see my screen, I'm just trying to show you. Paper tearing we covered. Paper strips I talked about. They're not the only techniques. And the technique you see on the giraffe, it's an overused technique, yes, but I think you can still take it to a one or two level, even we can make it more interesting and bring some of your own input into these techniques, right? Um, Now joineries, learn some basic joineries. You have scissor, you have other kind of joineries. Um, which can be helpful, which can sometimes, if you don't have glue, they can definitely help. But even if you have glue, it gives a different form to it, a different structure to it, right? So you can utilize that. These are some other examples of it, right? Now, pop-up is, again, we have all have seen pop-ups, we have used it, but applying it is of another, task, or it's another challenge. So try pop-ups. And you will realize that pop-ups just creates a kind of a little motion to the paper through folding. And even if you don't use it, what you see, try to adopt it, try to change it, try to attach things onto the pop-up to make it, your own style. And kirigami, which is simply paper cutting and folding. So this could be also an interesting technique. Again, I'm just mentioning these techniques. You'll have to go and try. You can do paper folding textures. These are a few kinds, but you can explore more. These can also give you a very interesting texture to be used. Again, you have to also keep time in mind. So you have to practice now so you understand how much time you take for each technique. And therefore, you can calculate during your actual exam or examination paper entrance, not entrance, sorry. Uh, and therefore, you know what technique I can use for which question and do I have time, or I cannot use it because I'm too slow at it. So you need to have all these understandings, have a very clear uh, self-awareness about it, right? And we also have, so origami and paper folding can give you a lot of structures, right? It can give you 3D geometry, it can give you 3D forms. It also increases the strength of the paper, which means you can use it to hold things together, right? So you don't have to necessarily use wire or a cardboard to keep paper rigid. Paper itself can become rigid if you use it the correct way, right? So there's a lot of homework for you guys. Keep trying. Again, work in groups so that if 5 people do 10 pieces of origami, you can understand, oh, this person has used it interestingly. So I can, uh, also try it out. Now, we are coming to space planning. Now, I'll just give you 2, 3 larger keywords to investigate, and you can go deeper further than that. So when we are doing, we have to create models and we have to create spaces sometimes, right? Big, small, etc. So, but before even we put things together, we need to have a clear understanding of the layout, okay, and the flow of who's going to move around in the space, because you don't create a model like a model. Just imagine that model is actually a physical space where a human being is going to be, right? So you can't have things so uh, stacked together that there is no place to move, right? That defeats the purpose. So that's where I also, when I mention ignorance, like, this is where I'm coming from. So if you keep a little bit of space planning, I'm not saying you're making it proportionately accurate, like an architectural drawing to the millimeter or to the inch, right? That's not the point, because you have a lot of liberty with exaggeration and with and with becoming a little more loose with proportions and all. But there is a limit to it, is where I'm getting at. So you can exaggerate things, but not to a point where it becomes absurd, okay, and it does not become a functional space at all. So you have to understand, when a human being moves, what all areas are accessible, what are the open spaces. If a person is coming naturally, where would they go, right? You want them to go left, but the space is arranged in such a way that there are obstruction and they will take a right or they will straight. So you can actually define people's path by the way you keep the objects around. Okay, so it's kind of a human psychology, and so you should understand space planning. And on the left, you see the image. That's, let's say, the space we have conceptualized. But we have also have to have an understanding of, okay, how much distance we need, from where people will enter, from where people will exit, and design it more consciously. And then when it comes to proportions, sometimes you can create things, like I said, you can exaggerate, but to a limit. You have to understand the for whom you're designing, because a child's height of 8 years old is very different than someone 25 or 30, right? An adult. Even with communities, the height proportions will change. And therefore, your room proportions or scale has to be in proportionately to the human scale. All right. So, for example, if you have designed a kitchen, you have to understand how big a human being is. Like, there is definitely more headspace after the cupboards up. Generally the ceiling is not so low, right? So there'll be a little bit more ceiling. So the human being is going to be look more proportionately to the room. But you need to understand these concepts when creating models. All right. So space planning, proportions, human proportions, anatomy, you have to have a fair understanding of what a 5 feet 5 inch person looks like against a kitchen which is, let's say, 15 feet by 15 feet, let's say. All right. So it's not just enough good enough knowing, you need to practice and in reality check these things out. You can do this uh, practice even in your own personal houses or classes. Just take a photograph each other in the larger room and then just you know try to scale, try to measure things out and see, okay, a person, I actually reach to this level in against the cupboard in the room, okay, and then there is cupboard is 2 feet and then there is another 1.5 feet above the cupboard, and then you understand, okay, what actually the proportions are, how high a chair is, how high you have to understand these things. You can't have a table which is just 1.5 feet in height. So these are the things, like I said, you have to critically analyze things around you. You need to understand proportions of day-to-day objects, doors, windows, uh, water bottle, even a pet like a dog, a cat, an elephant against a human being. How big are these things? So you need to develop a better understanding of proportions in life. All right. Now let's just jump over the students' work and let's just talk about and we'll also discuss. So one thing I noticed in this student work, which is coming from I think SS4, is it is neatly done and it is detailed. Both the things, both are different. All right. And I also want to cover one more thing is to make something look good, you don't have to add color, you don't have to add unnecessary clutter the things with too many objects. All right. It's a common problem that even with art, sometimes people don't know where to stop. And it also applies to model making. You should know where to stop. A well constructed model does not need much. It itself is the structure itself is beautiful. All right. If your structure is beautiful, then it's your choice. You want to add color or you want to add decoration and stuff like that. That becomes secondary. So the first non-negotiable is that you have to create neat models. Nice cuts, no glue marks, no smudges, no pencil marks, things like that. So you have to plan in advance. Sometimes you make a drawing over a sheet which you have to cut. Then you realize, ideally, all the drawing lines should be behind or under the model, so it's not seen, right? Because eraser, how much can it erase? It always leaves marks. So you have to plan in advance. Sometimes it has to go mirror, because when you turn it around, it's going to get flipped. So you all have to plan those things out. Okay. In these two models, I would say it is still neat. However, one color is something color should help you. Uh, in the case in the left, I would say the model is so dark, or at least the photography of it is so such that I cannot see the details of the room itself. A lot of details are I cannot define it very well because I cannot see it very well. So choice of colors and what, because colors are going to be layered, so color interaction is going to come out, right? So just knowing your split complementaries, analogous, and the different color palettes is not helpful. You have to really apply it and see how actually it works, because the proportion of color is also important, right? So if you choose a already a color palette which works somewhere else, and you are like, "Arey, wahan kaam kiya, mera bhi kaam karega," so you apply it over here, but then you don't realize ki in what they use it there, and how did they layers the color on top of each other. It was completely going to change everything, right? And because sometimes there are too many elements, so I don't have the clarity of what exactly is happening. Where should I look? It's just like an image, right? A physical model is also going to imprint an image in your mind, right? So your eye is going to move around the model, and you have to understand that it should be a pleasurable and easy uh, thing to see or to observe or to communicate. So I think this is something we can improve. And similarly, how much time we have? Not too much, but I wanted to ask you guys, ki, what do you like or what you don't like in these models? Um, that's why I kept the boxes there. I think you can do this as an exercise at your end. Take each other's work and then just sit around and develop the capability to listen to critical feedback, and make sure that when you are giving critical feedback, you have to match both. There has to be something good also. I'm sure 99% cases there is something, whether it's a concept but poor execution, or great execution and poor concept, or a mix of things. But find things to appreciate and find things to comment which can be improved either ways. So yeah, so I think things can be, and I'll show you some tools also that can help you. All right. In this, for example, the model started well on the bottom, but for example, I think on the top I see it's like a projector or some kind of device. It's a chainsaw and it's a helmet. Okay, now I get it. So I think the helmet itself suddenly becomes two-dimensional. So there is a vast difference in quality. I think if you could somehow manage a more 2.5D or 3D helmet or something, it would improve and it looks undone. It looks semi-done. So suddenly, when you are creating some parts are well done, but some parts are not so well done, it highlights and they steal the show. The attention will go from the good parts to appreciate into the problems that we see, and it happens more often. And the Chandrayaan mission, yes, I think it's a good attempt, but I think we can add more things. Like on the bottom, the dots. Um, when you're designing things, make sure you have a reason for everything that you're doing, right? So over here, I do not know what it represents, the dots, but I think use more. You can use more lines or shapes and forms which better represent space or moon or dynamic. Those are the words. Again, through mind mapping, you're going to come there. The words I'll associate with space launch or rocket. So, like I said, a lot of energy, a lot of power, a lot of progress, growth, and things like that. Maybe radial lines over here, neatly done, could also represent things bursting into space. The mask is well done. I could also look into other color combinations a little, and I could add more depth, not physically but otherwise, because right now you have to see the colors you're using, the combination. Uh, they sometimes can compete with each other. So we have to, again, what do I see? And I can increase the depth using the certain combinations. The problem also is because the colored paper comes in very limited uh, colors, right? And in India, there are only so many color paper that are available, right? So I think it's a good practice to see that when given a limited color palette of these assorted color paper, what are the best combinations you can find? And there will be hundreds and hundreds of them also. Again, it's all about the proportion of how you use the color. These models, definitely the construction quality can improve. The larger, so for example, let's say it's a kid's room. It looks like a kid's room, right? And you're using nature theme here because I can see a lion there, and I can see a leaf over here. But then I also see a staircase, and then I see something else. I see something else. So there is lack of harmony in color, and there is also a lack of harmony in the form and the thematic elements. So there is a disjointedness in those three elements. So again, if you go through the proper exercise and even in the mind mapping this thing, one of the boxes you should investigate for each topic or theme is the color palette, right? Okay, what are the colors that are associated with this topic? So from there, then you should know, and then again there are hundreds and thousands of colors. So it's going to be different for different people when they're doing the same mind mapping for the same word itself. But then you should at least identify beforehand and through your training right now. Uh, so exam paper is not for you to experiment. Your experimentation is going to happen now in the classroom, and you're just going to execute the closest solutions you had reached during your training. You perform there. Uh, at the same time, yes, because the questions are going to be completely new, you should bring something new on the day of the question paper. But rest of the technicalities, the techniques, the larger, uh, you know, thought process should already be sorted, is what we are saying. So that applies to. So we can go with the neatness, we can go with the color composition, harmony for the models here. Again, the same thing applies here. It was getting neatly done, definitely, Uh, and but if you can give, see, a lot of, if you don't have time, I understand. But if you can give some more depth to the chair, because all these are then a little too flat, that will be helpful. That would look nice. Yeah, and see what best you can do with the given resources available there, right? And less is more also. So don't clutter things up too much. Less is okay, but construct it well. Uh, Choose good. Like over here, for example, this person has not used too many colors, but still they're largely falling into place with each other. There's some kind of harmony, and it's neatly done as well. So that works. This person, the model in the center, can have a little more impact, and because I think maybe the corrugated sheet you are using, it's too brown, and I don't see the again the details so well. So again, you have to work with this limitation if you are not provided with colors, or and if only corrugated is given. How do I get an impactful model out of it? Just because the material is basic does not mean we give up and we don't find the best way possible. Because some people do really great models in just corrugated and no other material, right? Now we're going to see one, what do you call it? Demo for an app called Viscom. One second, 100%. Now, Viscom is the only AI tool which I tell students to use. There could be others, but I'll tell you the logic. And therefore, when new tools get done, they are created, which they are getting done like every other week. A new tool is there out in the market. You should know how not to use AI and how to use AI. All right. Otherwise, I'm saying we have been lucky always because a lot of technologies have come after we did the old, old school method learning, and then the new tool comes. So, we have the slow process, which allows you to go more in depth, and you have the fast process. So we can choose between the two. So in your training and your student life, not just at SS4 or when you're in college, try to take the longer route. That's the whole point of education. The point of education is not to train you to deliver like in 3 days, deliver me a, a brochure or a poster or an illustration like how the industries do. That industry is going to teach you how to do it in 3 days. The education is going to teach you the longer route, which gives you more depth, skills, understanding, and stronger, makes you a stronger designer, right? So let's go to Viscom. It's a lovely tool. Now, what Viscom does is it it just renders things for you. So you have to sketch for it, right? So I think if the sketch is done, the main blueprint is done. And then it comes to the technical skills of rendering. So some people could be great at it. Some people could not be so great at it. So I'm saying at least you have applied your creative mind when you did your initial concepts in pencil sketches, and Viscom can help you render it. All right. That does not mean you stop rendering and don't learn it because, like I said, it develops other very subtle skills when you're doing things the longer way. You will develop sense of color. You will develop sense of line weight, shadows, proportions, control by hand. It's much faster. You are not looking for a tool. You can just sketch anywhere. It does a very different kind of neurological, uh, what do you call them? Network creation. It works a different way. And when you take shortcuts, everybody's taking shortcuts. So the depth, how do you say? The depth of the neural network is smaller if you don't put too much pressure. It's like a muscle, right? It develops if you put a little bit pressure, and that's why I'm saying take the longer route in your education at a student level. So we have seen this model. Now let's say I've already made the model and I don't know, and I'm saying, oh, a different color could have worked better, right? Now, how many times should you physically do it? So I'm saying you could test out color beforehand by using a tool like Viscom, which can render the thing for you. Model remains the same. It could have been a white model also. And you can define, and there are ways you have to learn the software. It's pretty simple, but to go and to get the details out, you can, or get the exact result that you're looking for, then you'll need some practice. So as you can see, there are different renders coming out, and you can compare which color could have been better for my model, all right? And so on and so forth, correct? And similarly, you can use this model for 2D sketches, renders as well. All right. So try this tool out. It's pretty simple. I can simply take this, upload whatever image I want. Because it's already lacks details. One second. Because it's already, the photograph does not have too many details, it will try to do it. But if you were to give it a pencil sketch of the same thing, it would do it much better. Or if you were to give it a grayscale model, I think it might do it better. So it takes a while for it to understand what exactly is happening. Uh, so again, so sometimes it gives you results which are not intended, which also depends on the input that you have given. So try out the Viscom tool. Use it to do color palettes. Testing color palette before you make a model is what I'm trying to tell you. All right. You can also use it for try things out before you actually finally do it. And in this case, I think color is a good thing. And otherwise, you can always do product renderings and things like that on it. It's not a DALI kind of platform where you say, okay, give me a character with this and that. It might be able to attempt it, but that's not what it is designed for. It is a product design, industrial design tool, uh, which helps you render things. All right. Um, so yeah, we have a key takeaways from the session, which I would say you have to start going a little deeper into solving things before you even attempt to finally create a solution. Try to understand the problem, try to understand the solution, try to understand the domain. It applies to everything. If you're going for apparel design, truly understand what goes into apparel design. If you're going into whether it's communication design, truly understand what all is there, right? And then definitely, like we said, brings keywords of the themes. And so yeah, everything is going to be done right now in your training period, right? And once you're sure, and the clearer the thought, the better the model, always. Usually our models are not great because our sketches are not great because mind we know a little bit, thoda idea hai, but puri tarah se nahi hai. So people who do great work, what they possess is clarity, and that clarity comes from doing a lot of things beforehand. So that clarity comes with a lot of mistakes, a lot of failures. All right. And then telling a story, like you said, how we took a concept from representation, let's say where there was poverty and it went from empty pole and it went into shadowless people, right? So shadowless people, the narrative is much stronger. The first one, the narrative is direct. Okay, help the poor, let's say. The next one is much deeper, which talks about their, unspoken challenges which are there. So have a strong story, and to develop it, you have to go a little abstract, okay, or metaphorical. And then the your skills with crafting, you have to be meticulous. Uh, you have to be careful. You have to be slow at first. And once you develop, if you're a clumsy person like me, you have to keep reminding yourself to do it, to slow down. Okay. And with practice, what happens, it becomes a habit. And then the clumsiness will go away, at least during that task. Maybe not from your life. It can stay as a personality trait. But we can overpower our habits and our attitudes through training. Um, Less is more in design, always. You should study the 10 principles of good design. Uh, Only add if necessary, and use material. Don't just put everything. It does not give a good reflection on your confidence with your intent and thought. Then play with contrast and scale. Like we said, understand the proportions really well. And when you're building anything, make sure, unless you're what the model you're making itself has a structural strength, sometimes you have to create a structure first and then clad it with something which looks more aesthetic or beautiful, right? And so again, in the exam paper, so that you don't have to rush, this is the time to work. Okay. Again, simplicity, don't clutter. We can learn from different sources, but make sure you add something of your own to the solution. You can never copy paste. Copy paste is actually a dangerous thing, because if you get into that habit, like I said, everything you do is going to trigger a response in your neurological networks, okay, in your brain. And the path you take, how you do things, is going to affect how much you can think, or in different ways, or your creative thought is going to affect. So make sure you make the assignment, the technique you're learning, your own. You have to make it your own. You have to include some bit of your own self into it to make it, yeah, to then it will stand out. Then okay, so I think the rest of the interactions during the training is going to happen with SS4, the Krishna, Simran, and all the other faculties there, right? They are fully capable. They have great ideas. They can guide you really well. We can now move on to the question and answers. And those who are online, you can put it on the chat. Those who are in the room with Krishna and Simran, you guys can collate it. We can take, let's start with 5 questions in the beginning. Palak Dedia has raised his hand. Yeah, Palak, her hand, sorry.
I'm sorry, that was by mistake.
Okay. But now, since you have raised your hand, why didn't you ask a question? There are no mistakes. I think life wants you to ask me a question.
We have Advat as a question. अगर मटेरियल बचाओ तो क्या ओवरडू करना सही है?
बिल्कुल ओवरडू कभी नहीं करना चाहिए. मटेरियल एक बचे, unless they have mentioned you have to use all the material provided to its entirety, तो I can understand. Okay, but जहाँ पे उन्होंने specifically mention नहीं किया है, उसमें use what you can. Okay, only till a point. So making the best concept and then उसके बाद the model is the purpose. Using the material to its completely to overdo it is not the point, right? That's actually something not to be done. Okay, Prishan, wait. Is it necessary to mention how we use the materials in the write-up along with the theme and concept? And what is the ideal write-up structure? Okay, there is no ideal writing structure. Somebody with a good knack can really weave an answer, even a write-up well. You know what I mean? You don't have to be like bullet point one, bullet point two. You can do that also. It all depends on how you think. The main important thing is, yes, definitely uh, a good write-up which evokes emotion in you, or the usage of the correct words, definitely makes a different impact, right? So if you have a story, if you really have a story of when you use the material, you are conscious about a certain things, definitely mention it. Okay. So your inner thoughts, because sometimes some things cannot be seen. You had uh, your own inner story while building that model. You can definitely write it down. If there is a word limit, make sure you're not missing out the other essential aspects that have been asked in the question. Okay, Kavya? No, not Kavya, Prisha. So yes, you can include as many things as possible as long as it's connected to the theme, the question, the model itself, right? And like I said, the structure is not so important as long as you are clear about what you're writing and you're not going in loop, that you're saying the same thing thrice. वो नहीं होना चाहिए. All right.
Okay, sir, thank you.
So there's some quick technique that can help save time. Um, Quick techniques. See, the thing is, because there's so many techniques, if you just go by quick techniques, you might miss on the variety of techniques. I'm saying quickness also comes with practice. So first, try all the techniques and then make a list of what are the fastest techniques, method. All right. Um, for example, if I'm confident about my joineries, then I can avoid glue and therefore the messiness, for example, and it will be faster. But sometimes non-glue joinery can be flimsy also. So it depends on model to model, case by case. So there is no very definitive answer to your this thing. I think Krishna, on your side, you have guys have a question?
Yeah, we have two students who has questions. So first one is Priya.
Hmm. Hi, Priya.
So my question is कि अगर हमारे कॉन्सेप्ट के अकॉर्डिंग हमारे पास कलर्ड शीट ना हो एग्जाम में तो फिर क्या करेंगे?
No, so I don't think one color, your whole concept will boil down to one color. ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता. But that's also your practice to understand कि if you think red is dynamic and red is anger, अब मेरे पास red नहीं है तो मैं क्या करूँगी? So that's not the case, you know. Energy can come in many different colors also. It also depends on form and shape. So you have to see कि अगर color में availability नहीं है, then maybe I can move on to form and reflect it through there, or I can move it through the narrative itself, the story itself, you know. And therefore story के लिए जो आप symbols, जो motives, जो representational drawings बनाएंगे या model बनाएंगे, that is representing the theme. And so I'm saying कि you have to be able to answer the same problem in different ways. Okay. And like I said कि color नहीं है तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. You figure out another way of attempting the same or communicating the same thought is what we are talking about. बहुत जरूरी है. Color is a part of it, right? But similar, same as composition, same as lighting, same as texture, same as shapes and forms. So you have a lot of variety to choose from the ingredients to cook your narrative and visual.
So hi, I'm Ahana. So there's usually a time constraint in the exams. So by chance, if we have a lot to do and we don't have time left, what should we focus on? On like completing the whole model or like on the details and the neatly doing of the whole thing?
That's a good question. See, one is again create the basic structure neatly. Take a photograph. Okay, so the model itself should be you should be sure just by structure you should reach a point where it can be submitted because it looks neat enough. It gives you clearly communicates the narrative or the model or what has been asked can be communicated with simply the structure itself. Then you start adding detail another level. Then take a picture. Then more details another level. So you do 15-minute work. Let's say 15-minute model, but try to make it neatly. Then you have a half an hour model and you have a 1 hour model. So you just check out. You have your variety of things that you know you can do in the same amount of time. All right. Another method is that you create the model and see if I start adding details or let's say only a portion of my model is completed, the rest is all you know in a very basic form or a draft. Then if that is the case, then at least what I can do is how they sometimes do a patchwork on the wall to show you sir ऐसा color दिखेगा या ऐसा इसका detail आएगा. So I'm just thinking out loud right now, but you do because so many people are listening. If all of you start applying it, then it becomes a common thing amongst all. But what I'm trying to say is, what if you take a neat line through the room, and on the left part of the line, it's all basic structure. On the right, it's neatly done, only a small portion, but neatly rendered. So it's almost like something is getting rendered and it's stopped in the middle. So that can showcase that you had the capability and the color and the scheme and I can assess the quality of the model from the rendered part. The rest I did not complete because I did not have time. So that is another strategy, is what I'm saying. Now you guys can again, there is no right and wrong answer. It also depends on the individuator, right? So a lot of factors are not in your hand, but I'm saying you should have a variety of degrees of finishes you guys have to practice. And but at each stage it looks complete. Looks complete even at the structure stage. It does not look like somebody stopped midway. That should not be the case. So when you have lack of time, I say go with the and really go fast when applying. If they have not asked you to render something, don't render. So don't do unnecessary things. And it is also important that you should practice to make simpler models and complex models so that you can decide which style treatment to take depending on the time you have. So don't take too much risk. And when you don't have time and you're attempting something glorious, so don't do that. I will suggest. The most important thing is generally the concept. But in NIFT, the so NID and NIFT, that's the difference. The functional, conceptual clarity and thought is more favored, I think, in NID, and in NIFT, your finishing might be favored. So do less, but do it well in NIFT, I would say.
So hi, I'm Shelly. Actually, I want to ask you,
Hi,
is it
Shalini.
important? So is it important to always add 3D elements, like just small elements होते हैं उनको अगर हम 2D में बना रहे हैं तो is it okay or not?
It's okay as long as see देखिए जब 3D और 2D आता है साथ में ना तो उनका भी एक हार्मनी होनी चाहिए उनके बीच में. Okay, it should not look like something has been pasted on the wall but it's not fitting into the room. So 2D is perfectly fine. That's not a problem. It's not the problem of 2D versus 3D, but how do they play together? Okay, अगर वो odd लग रहा है या ऐसा लग रहा है कि टाइम नहीं था इसलिए नहीं हुआ इसलिए आप कर रहे हैं तो थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है. But if it looks a part of the whole scenario, it merges well, then great. हर चीज 3D नहीं बना सकते हैं. I agree with you, Shelly, because you don't have so much time, right? So there's also practice to understand ki how can 2D elements work really well with three-dimensional space.
We have Spursh, I guess, who raised hand for the question.
Yeah, sir.
Hi, Sparsh.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Personally. Sir, my question is, how you have to like think out of the box at that time where there's a lot of pressure and you have to do your time at work. So how you have to manage like what should be the criteria we have to focus on at that time?
So, like I said, I've already answered this question that you don't have to think out of the box during the exam. You should have already thought about the out of the box thoughts during your training. All right. Because if you have done it enough during your training, your mind starts working with that kind of processing, which is then you start thinking now your natural thoughts are only out of the box because you've already discarded the most common ones. You don't find any major pleasure in the common ones because in the training you've seen there are other 50 students, 20 students around you are also doing something. And natural evaluation to hota hi hai, correct? So when I look around, I can easily evaluate ki what I have created, what the other person created, which one looks better, which one is more quirky, which one is more creative, and then I can keep discarding my thoughts. And that's what I'm saying. You have to do a lot of thinking, a lot of doing during your training. Discard the obvious thoughts, the stereotypical, the first three thoughts. Do it, but then discard it. Move on to a more better narrative, better solutions. And when you go into the paper, your already mind is working on that refined level of creativity. All right. And finishing the paper is most important. So don't leave any question unattended, is what I'm saying, because then you'll directly lose marks. So go with the objective type questions if you have, or things like that. You can just finish them quickly. And or the question, subjective type question, if you already have a clear, if suddenly something pops up which you like, attempt that first. All right. At this point, I'll just take a quick break and come back. Krishna.
Yeah, sure. I guess we are almost set on. So Yashika, Kavya, if you want, if you have any question, you can put it in the chat box also till Gaurav comes. So you can come and go through the questions. Would it be fine?
Yes, sir.
And how was it, guys? The rest of the people, did you get what
It was
Gaurav
really great.
said? What about others?
Definitely a nice session.
And make sure I have shared in
Sessions
the
from Gaurav sir are always very thoughtful.
yeah, it was very elaborated. The process he showed in the starting, right? How to uh, do the mind mapping, right? How to take any theme and then take out so many branches and so many areas to come with the intangible and the tangible thoughts also. So that was really great. So yeah, Gaurav is back. So Gaurav, we have, I guess, Yashika and Kavya wants to ask question, and then we
Okay.
can just wrap.
Okay. I'll just also take quick Shambhavi's question. Yes, you can add human figure in a paper split joinery. I would, I think that's a preferred method also because I don't think the point is to create a 3D human being and stuff like that or a detailed human being. I think unless they have asked specifically about it. And if you want to show the proportions of the room versus the human being, yes, split joinery perfectly works. Sketching visuals and write up, is it allowed? See, I think I would like to take that risk, Sonali, because in my philosophy, but see, if they have asked for a write up, they have asked for text, correct? If you can provide a good text and then add doodles there, again, a little risk, but that's okay. At least you're doing something extra. But you can't complement write up with doodles. Don't do that. Because write up falls under the literary category, right? Category that you're writing something, you're expressing your thoughts through words, and you're giving clarity through words. You've already given a visual through a 3D, whether it's a drawing or whether it's a 3D model. That's a more of visual nature, right? So I hope you understand.
Yes, sir.
And Shambhavi said, time 2D form. Yes, we have answered that. Can I be sketch along with write up? Acha, that's the same question. Kavya, we don't need clutter. A space or a model seems empty. I don't have a choice. Okay, Kavya, one thing is a lot of us are not comfortable with emptiness. So it's not whether the model is looking nice or not. It's sometimes we are not used to. So I think you should and emptiness depend karta hai. Is it looking? So there is a fine line between minimalistic versus something is half done. There is a fine line. You have to identify what is that fine line. That in minimalism, it looks complete, but it has minimal components. Versus you have something which looks like you were doing it and midway you had to stop. Do you understand? So try to develop that minimalistic component also. That how does something look complete while being minimal? There is a certain personality to it. So identify those elements and attempt them.
Oh, yes, sir. I have one more doubt. Like
Yeah.
once me and my friend created a hat on like flora and fauna topic. So instead going to the direct flora and fauna, I choose go on that is very much related to flora and fauna. So I used multiple techniques like accordance and stuff, and instead she created a strawberry using curling techniques, cutting multiple circles and pasting it onto the sheet. That was like very dynamic and bright, so it got a lot of appreciation. On the other hand, I used multiple techniques, but it was very much minimalist. So I should go with the concept or I should go with the dynamism in exam.
No, see the you have to communicate a specific thought through your
Yeah.
visual or model, right? Your story has to be first very s- strong or clear at least, and then you choose how do you want to, because let's say uh, Gond art and you're connecting it to flora fauna, but that connection has to be strong enough. It's not just because you're using that art form or style automatically kind of marries the concept. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what visuals you used and things like that. And because I don't have both the examples in front of me, but this could be a question you can pick up in the classroom, and I think your teachers could also help out because, like I said, I have to see to be able to comment on these because both could work. What in both the cases that you gave me in a scenario, yeah, but like I said, it has to be interconnections, narrative, everything has to be woven very strongly. That when somebody sees, they're like, "Arey, ha, matlab, this is well done," right? Um, so, yep. Any other question, Krishna, that I'm missing?
Yeah, Gaurav. There is last and yeah.
Okay, so hello, I'm Jaya, and I wanted to ask, like, if you're creating an interior space, does every element have to be
Related
taken
to theme.
related directly related to theme? Like, can you just take the color palette for some elements, or like not directly inspired by the theme? Is it okay to do that?
So are you saying that not using representational motives and symbols for the theme, but use the color from the theme, right?
Yeah,
Yes, you
like
can do
maybe
that.
in not in every element, but like some element.
Yeah. Yes, you can do that. It just something should not see as long as you have a clear intent around every element that you're putting in. Okay, you have a logic, you have an intent. Not just intent, but logic also. But why have you put it there? It's going to generally work out fine. What happens is sometimes I cut triangles and I put it on the wall just because I thought the wall was looking empty. Now that has no sense at all. Just filling the wall is not the purpose, is what I'm trying to say, right? Putting those triangles on the wall itself will start evoking in meanings. So I'm saying, does that fit into the narrative? Does that fit into the theme? Um, Things like that. So yes, you can, but make sure that all your intent are well communicated. They fall within the theme, and yeah.
Sir, I've typed a message if a question if you could see.
Having trouble accommodating all material given to us. Is this the one?
Yes, sir.
Without looking Mushabi, then no. So there is a difference between material and there is a difference between the element that you create from that material. So material, for example, I'm given cardboard, paper, wire, let's say, and a plastic straw, and everybody is given the same material. Correct? If they have asked you have to use all the material, means all the category of material, yes, you have to use all the category of material. But then how do I place my straw? What does it become after I put it in? Will become the meaning element into the narrative, right? Does that suit in? I'm saying that's more important. So clutter nahi karne ke liye, again, that's a practice of if a certain material they have given, you have to use it, but you can also hide it. So, मान लो, wire is giving structural strength, but I don't have to show the wire, right? So if the limitation is that you have to use all the materials, definitely you will have to use all the material. You can't skip something. But if you think the visual aesthetics and visual beauty of the model is being affected because of certain material, then you make changes to that material uh, and you manipulate that material ताकि it starts suiting the thing. And cluttering का वही है कि the thing is how much of everything we put clutters it up, right? Like I said, material में 4 5 materials से ज़्यादा शायद आपको ना मिले. They won't give you 20 different kind of materials, right? They might give you larger material I'm talking about. So paper based, wire based, let's say tube or thread. So there are only certain kind of materials. उसके variations हो सकते हैं. They can give you multiple kind of papers and multiple kind of things like that. So that you can avoid. You can choose and pick and choose कि कौन से category का कौन सा मुझे material लेना है. Um, but again, unless we try it, we will not be able to find the real answer to this question. You start using all the material and you all attempt. That's again, like I said, key. If 5 of you were to given the same material and you attempt the question, you will see that you get a whole variety of all kind of answers, right? Someone who has not cluttered it and someone who has cluttered it. So yeah, the solutions will lie there as well. To answer Ishita's question, Ishita, right now you're thinking, but again, we have to sit in a team, do that brain mapping session, read a little bit. That's when the sci-fi, the futuristic element that we are talking about, can be changed. Because yeah, so it can go beyond neon and just this kind of
the obvious stereotypical elements that we use. We can go beyond it. So we'll have to do the exercise once, because this question can apply to anything futuristic, historic, or medieval. Whenever we say a word like that, we'll have to study it.
So I guess it's all done, Gaurav, right?
Yeah. Thank
So
you, people, for being
thanks a
patient
lot,
for
Gaurav. Yeah, thanks a lot for the session, and it was really nicely and very detailed and elaborated sessions of the theme and how to decode it. So it was really helpful, and the tools that you have suggested also, Viscom and the fixed jam, right? So I'll communicate it to the students also how to enroll without those. It's a free tool that they can use. So I'll demonstrate also. So thanks a lot, Gaurav. It was really nice, right?
no, and yeah, I'm traveling, so therefore I'm in a more open, uncontrolled space, I should say. So yeah, but I hope it works. And Krishna, you tell me the feedback if you let them start applying these methods,
Hmm.
right? And it takes time. So please be patient, be highly committed, because that will bring the difference in your quality of work. We all have to refine our work, including our thought process. That is way more important. But so that thought process will only happen if they start discussing, if they start showing each other their work, talk about it, do some brain mapping exercises and all.
Sure, sure, we'll do that. And also the online people, please, as Gaurav suggested, right? And the way he showed how to mind map, you can also take out some themes like futuristic space, and then you can start working out, and you can share it in the group. We have added you in the group, so you can share it over there. So
And after initial brainstorming, so put pressure on your mind to come up with words, then do internet research and read about what is futuristic, and especially the visual domain of visual communication and futurism. What defines it, you know? Because जब भी कोई word create होता है, whether it's futurism, whether it's any word, it can only be created if it has been properly defined. So there is a definition existing for futurism. So read about it. हो सकता है आपका जो thought है उसके बारे में it's actually not exactly what the people who created the word meant. So do research. We have to do a lot of research and a lot of practice.
so that's all. Okay. Thanks a lot, Gaurav.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And share the feedback with you.
Good. Yes, please. Okay. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye everyone.